Welcome to Global Monetary Watch, where we focus on the structural shifts and the fundamental realities defining the current landscape of the Iraqi financial system. If you have been following the progression of international finance for any significant period, you are likely aware that our approach here is defined by a commitment to stripping away the superficial layers of excitement to uncover the architectural changes occurring beneath the surface. It is essential to begin today by addressing the profound sense of exhaustion that many dedicated observers feel when tracking a situation as historically complex and layered as this one. Many of you have dedicated years, or even more than a decade, to understanding the trajectory of the Iraqi economy, and the absence of a simple, linear progression can often lead to a sense of frustration or a questioning of one's own research. It is important to validate that this sense of confusion is not a reflection of a lack of insight on your part, but rather a direct result of the sheer density of the geopolitical and economic variables at play. This discussion is specifically designed for the serious, long-term observer who prioritizes structural clarity over the ephemeral satisfaction of unverified rumors. The current atmosphere surrounding the Iraqi monetary situation is characterized by a foundational shift that is perhaps less visible to the casual viewer, but is being studied with great intensity by professional analysts. We are not here to discuss dramatic, overnight events or to provide speculative timelines that have no basis in institutional data. Instead, our objective is to construct a framework that allows you to see how disparate pieces of reporting, from credit ratings to international trade negotiations, fit into a singular, cohesive picture. By the end of this analysis, the goal is for you to understand the specific frameworks that professional analysts use to filter out the noise, allowing you to focus on the indicators that actually matter for the future of Iraq's economic normalization. The complexity we see today is not a sign of stagnation, but rather a sign of a massive structural realignment that is occurring simultaneously across dozens of different institutional sectors. One of the most profound insights shared by respected voices in this field recently is the observation that Iraq is currently attempting to navigate in 50 different directions at the same time. This is a staggering metaphor that highlights the reality of a nation trying to reform its military, stabilize its internal politics, negotiate international diplomacy, and overhaul its entire monetary infrastructure all at once. When an analyst with years of experience admits that no one can accurately gauge the precise timing of a specific outcome because of this multi-directional movement, it should be viewed as an act of profound intellectual honesty. In an era where many sources feel pressured to provide constant, manufactured confidence, an admission of uncertainty regarding timing is actually a hallmark of credibility. It signals that the observer is paying attention to the messiness of real-world institutional change rather than a sanitized, simplified narrative. Understanding that timing remains murky does not equate to an admission that progress has stalled. Rather, it suggests that the progress is so systemic that it cannot be reduced to a single date on a calendar. When you see contradictory reports, one suggesting rapid advancement and another suggesting political stalemate, you are not necessarily seeing a conflict of facts, but rather the internal friction of a country undergoing a massive transition. The key to staying grounded as an observer is to stop searching for a clean narrative and to start identifying the structural threads that persist regardless of the daily headlines. This approach allows you to move past the emotional volatility of the news cycle and focus on the deep, tissue changes that are required for a country like Iraq to reintegrate into the global financial community. At the heart of these structural changes is Iraq's ongoing preparation for full integration into the World Trade Organization. This is not merely a diplomatic exercise or a symbolic gesture. It is a rigorous process that requires a nation to prove it can operate according to the standards of modern, international commerce. The World Trade Organization serves as a global gatekeeper for economic credibility, and the requirements for entry are exhaustive. A candidate nation must demonstrate a functioning private sector, a transparent and modern banking system, effective inflation controls, and a stable monetary policy that can interact seamlessly with international markets. Recent reports indicate that Iraq has made significant strides in completing the necessary documentation and establishing the foundational infrastructure required for this transition. The significance of the WTO readiness cannot be overstated because it acts as a functional trigger for monetary alignment. It is difficult for a nation to participate fully in a global trade framework while maintaining a currency structure that is viewed as inconsistent with its actual economic output and institutional maturity. As Iraq aligns its internal systems with WTO standards, the pressure to adopt what analysts call a managed real effective exchange rate increases. This is a rate that is intended to reflect the true value of a nation's productivity and its role in the global economy. Therefore, the move toward the WTO is not just a trade goal but a signal that the underlying conditions for monetary reform are being systematically satisfied through institutional hard work. While many observers focus on the idea of a rate change as a localized event controlled by a single decision in Baghdad, it is more accurate to view it as the culmination of an international integration process. This is a movement toward normalization, where a country's financial identity is brought into alignment with global expectations. The preparation for the WTO involves the digitization of the banking sector, the implementation of anti-money laundering protocols, and the creation of a legal environment that protects international investment. These are the building periods that create the necessary runway for any significant monetary adjustment. Without this foundation, any change in currency value would lack the institutional support needed to survive the volatility of the global markets. Another critical indicator of this structural progress is the recent assessment by Standard & Poor's, which affirmed Iraq's BB credit rating with a stable outlook in February 2026. While a BB rating is not at the top of the investment grade scale, the word stable carries immense weight when applied to a nation in Iraq's geographic and historical position. For one of the world's leading credit rating agencies to look at a country that has endured decades of conflict, internal political strife, and oil price volatility and conclude that its fiscal trajectory is stable is a significant vote of confidence. This rating is based on hard data, debt to GDP ratios, foreign exchange reserves, and institutional transparency, rather than the speculative sentiment that often dominates online discussions. When a major agency like S&P issues a stable outlook, they are signaling to global investors that the risk of a systemic collapse is low and that the government's fiscal management is moving in a predictable, albeit gradual, direction. This creates a level of international credibility that is a prerequisite for any major monetary reform. A country with an improving credit profile is a country that can more easily attract the foreign direct investment necessary to diversify its economy away from oil. It also suggests that international financial institutions would be more likely to support and validate a move toward currency normalization, as the underlying economic data supports a narrative of growth and stability rather than desperation or volatility. It is also necessary to address the recurring discussions regarding the involvement of specific financial institutions in the United States, such as the rumors surrounding Fifth Third Bank and its potential role in future exchange processes. It is vital to maintain a disciplined perspective on these reports, as no official exchange framework or bank policy has been publicly confirmed by any major financial institution. While it is true that large banks would need to engage in significant behind-the-scenes preparation for a major monetary event, these activities are generally not disclosed to the public until a formal announcement is made by the relevant government authorities. Therefore, while the conversation around banking preparations is not entirely irrational, it must be treated with a high degree of skepticism until official documentation is available. The history of the dinar community is filled with rumors of bank protocols that never materialized, and the best way to protect oneself from unnecessary excitement is to prioritize structural data over procedural speculation. The primary focus should always remain on whether the underlying economic conditions for a rate change are being met. If the fundamental architecture of the Iraqi economy is sound, the specific logistics of how an exchange would take place will resolve themselves in due course. Focusing on the how before the why is a common trap that distracts from the more important task of monitoring Iraq's progress toward international financial standards and its relationship with global monitoring bodies. To keep a clear perspective, one must look at the operational independence of the Central Bank of Iraq. There is a strong analytical argument that the CBI, under the leadership of Governor al-Alaq, possesses the mandate and the institutional authority to adjust monetary policy based on internal economic data without waiting for every external milestone to be reached. While things like WTO membership and political stability provide the environment for a rate change, they are not necessarily absolute prerequisites in a legal sense. The CBI monitors inflation, liquidity, and the real value of the currency on a daily basis, and its leadership has the discretion to act when they believe the internal conditions are optimal for the nation's long-term economic health. This institutional discretion is one of the reasons why predicting the exact timing of a monetary shift is so difficult. Analysts are looking at the same data, but the decision ultimately rests with a small group of officials who have access to non-public information and who must weigh the benefits of a rate change against the risks of regional instability. The fact that the CBI has the authority to move independently of the political cycle is a crucial piece of the puzzle. It means that even during times of political friction in Baghdad, the technical work of monetary reform can continue behind the scenes, ensuring that the central bank is prepared to act the moment the broader environment allows for it. The geopolitical layer of this story is perhaps the most complex variable, particularly regarding the relationship between Iraq, Iran, and the United States. Recent reports suggest a significant tension between factions within Iraq that are aligned with Iranian interests and the strategic goals of the United States. Specifically, the reported efforts by certain political groups to reintroduce figures like Nouri al-Maliki into positions of primary influence create a specific kind of friction with current U.S. foreign policy. The United States government, particularly under the current administration, has expressed a firm position against the dominance of Iranian influence in Iraqi politics, seeing it as a threat to regional stability and to the integration of Iraq into the Western financial system. This geopolitical tug-of-war is directly relevant to the question of monetary reform because Iraq's path to becoming a Middle Eastern financial hub depends on its ability to operate within the dollar-based international system. If Iraq's political structure becomes too closely aligned with sanctioned regional actors, it risks being cut off from the very financial networks it needs to modernize its economy. Therefore, the efforts by the U.S. and its allies to ensure a balanced and independent Iraqi government are not just about regional power. They are about creating the political conditions necessary for Iraq to be a credible and trusted partner in the global economy. Without that trust, a significant revaluation of the currency would be difficult to sustain in the international market. The relationship between political alignment and monetary policy is one of the most misunderstood dynamics in this space. Some observers see political news as a distraction, but in reality, the two are inseparable. A country's currency is a reflection of the world's confidence in its government and its future. If a government is perceived as being under the influence of sanctioned entities, that confidence is eroded. Conversely, a government that demonstrates its independence and its commitment to international norms is a government that can more effectively support a strong and stable currency. This is why analysts pay such close attention to the diplomatic maneuvers in Baghdad, as they are often the precursors to major economic shifts. There is a strategic interest for the United States in seeing a prosperous and economically independent Iraq. A stable Iraq that can stand on its own feet financially is a more effective counterweight to regional volatility and a more reliable partner in energy and trade. This alignment of interests suggests that the pressure being applied by international partners is not intended to hinder Iraq's progress, but rather to ensure that the progress occurs within a framework that is sustainable and integrated with the global financial system. The active engagement of the U.S. in blocking political movements that would isolate Iraq from the West is a strong indicator that the international community is committed to Iraq's eventual normalization. When we look at the broader global context, Iraq's monetary journey is taking place during a period of significant change in the international financial system. There is a global conversation occurring about the role of various currencies, the dominance of the dollar, and the need for more inclusive and transparent trade systems. Iraq, with its vast oil reserves and its strategic geographic position, is not a minor player in this conversation. Its move toward currency normalization is part of a larger story about how developing nations integrate into a modern, digitized global economy. This makes the Iraqi situation a case study in structural reform under the watchful eye of international institutions. For the individual observer, the best course of action remains a disciplined focus on credible, structural information. The emotional roller coaster of the news cycle can be mitigated by sticking to a framework that values institutional data over speculative headlines. Maintaining a position in any asset requires a high degree of patience and the ability to distinguish between noise and signal. The most successful observers are those who have stopped trying to guess the when, and have instead focused on understanding the how and the why of the process. By understanding the conditions that must be met, you can remain grounded regardless of how long the process takes. It is important to remember that the complexity we see in Iraq is a feature of its transition, not a bug. A nation that is moving in 50 directions at once is a nation that is actively engaged in the difficult work of self-reinvention. This process is rarely clean or linear, but the direction of movement is what matters most. The completion of WTO documentation, the stable credit ratings, the institutional autonomy of the central bank, and the active support of international partners all point toward a destination of economic normalization. These are the markers of a country that is preparing to take its place as a significant participant in the global financial community. As we continue to watch these developments, we must apply a rigorous standard to every new piece of information. Does a report reflect a genuine change in the economic structure of the country? Or is it merely a reflection of the political theater that often surrounds major reforms? By asking these questions, we can maintain a level of clarity that is often missing from the broader conversation. Our goal at Global Monetary Watch is to provide that clarity by focusing on the fundamentals that will ultimately determine the outcome of this long and complex process. The patience required of those following this story is substantial, and it is a testament to the community's dedication that so many continue to seek out the truth. The journey toward monetary normalization is a marathon, not a sprint, and it is defined by the steady accumulation of institutional milestones. Each step forward, whether it is a trade agreement or a successful anti-corruption measure, adds a new layer of stability to the foundation of the Iraqi economy. This is the work of nation building, and it is happening in real time before our eyes. In summary, the narrative for Iraq is one of structural progression amidst geopolitical complexity. The foundational elements for a modernized financial system are being put into place, even if the timeline remains elusive due to the sheer number of variables involved. The intersection of trade, politics, and banking reform is where the real story lies, and that is where we will continue to focus our attention. By staying informed through credible analysis and maintaining a long-term perspective, you can navigate the noise and focus on the signals that truly matter. The commitment to understanding the reality of Iraq's economic situation is what brings us together. We will continue to monitor the central bank's activities, the diplomatic shifts in Baghdad, and the assessments of international financial institutions. Whenever a development occurs that genuinely moves the needle, we will analyze it with the same neutrality and factual focus that you have come to expect. This is a journey of discovery and analysis, and we are privileged to walk through it with you. Thank you for your continued trust and for being a part of this community of serious, informed observers. We will continue to look at the data, respect the complexity of the situation, and provide the structural analysis needed to make sense of it all. Stay focused on the foundations, keep a steady perspective, and remain prepared for the continued evolution of the global monetary landscape. We will be here to guide you through the next chapters of this story as they unfold.